It's very cloudy and overcast outside, so the light's really poor, sorry. But as you can see, this car looks fantastic on the inside. There's virtually no rust. There's a little vent over there and a little vent over there that I'm just gonna patch. Door, sorry. And what I want to do is take a wire wheel of some sort, get all the glue residue off, get it as smooth as possible, prime it, paint it. Want to make sure that I get into these holes with like a rust converter, really just stop it from deteriorating at all. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, a lot of small nooks and crannies. I'm sure I'm going to cut my fingers and bleed and all of that, but it's got to be worth it. Okay, really good thing I'm doing this. So as I'm cleaning it up, and you really are forced to look at every square centimeter, you start seeing the suntan. So yeah, some rust converter or just a rust preventative primer. Not sure what I'm going to do yet. We'll definitely stop that in its tracks, but it's still solid. It's just surface rust. This time for sure. I hope she doesn't let me down like Isabella did. I really need to get in there as well. I don't like Egyptian geese. You can hear them. Anyway, I need to get into these holes with a paintbrush or spray gun or something and just make sure I get rust treatment everywhere. Okay, so that wire wheel was just not working. So I went to the hardware store and I got the finest grit paper for this attachment that I have for my baby grinder. It's 120 grit. That should do the least damage, but I really want to get all of this adhesive off as far as possible, and also not go too deep, but to get the most of that rust off as well as possible. And then yeah, hopefully even today still start painting. Also got hopefully a better mask. The other one kept fogging my glasses up. It gums up really quickly. So I'm gonna go through these discs like it's nobody's business. What a mess this is making. Gonna take my dust displacer and just move some of this dust, and yeah, clean up my working environment a little bit. There is just no way that I'm gonna take all the glue off the roof to paint it. I'm gonna do something else. Maybe if I just wire wheel it lightly and paint over it, it gives a nice texture. It does look like it, But yeah, that's gonna be a mission unless I can get a wire wheel for my grinder. I've seen them, that will work, but these discs or pads or whatever they're called, they just gum up too quickly. It's not gonna be cost effective. Anyway, about a quarter of the car done, I would say. But like in the corners over here, where are we now? There. This side looks much better, but on that side, gonna need to try to figure out how I'm gonna get in there, clean it up nicely, as well as in the down there and in here. Lights. There's dust in there. But yeah, I really need to get in here, make sure that I irritate all that rust so that I can get some rust converter on it before I prime. Anywho, making progress. Might even work better than the grinder. Just don't think the knife is gonna last. You can see the brown starting to peer through underneath the paint, and that's rust that I don't think would have stopped by itself. So it's very good that I'm taking all of this off so that I can treat it, and I'm gonna have to check on the inside of the wheel bells as well to see what it looks like there. But I think it's only going to be on this side. I also think that a lot of the rust that we can now see is from when I washed the car and it introduced moisture. Or it's just because I'm paying better attention now and I'm looking at it more closely. But I think that's new. Well, not new, but it's reactivated when I washed the car and it's accelerated. So it's very important that I get that stopped as soon as possible. I might change tactics for the weekend, and actually instead of wanting to prime this rear side, I actually want to I'll see how the weekend goes, I might focus on exposing all the rust and getting that covered with rust converter first and then prime next weekend. But we'll see how it goes. I'm really worried about what's going on in there. I think that's going to be my biggest problem. Because how am I going to be able to paint in there? Thin paintbrush through these holes, I suppose, is the only way. Alright, so it is the next day, and all of this rust converter is cured nicely. I'm not going to spray just yet. I'm going to continue scratching off this adhesive slash tar slash whatever it is. Yesterday I found, after using 8 or 9 discs for my grinder, they just kept coming up. So I ended up using my knife, which worked very, very well. And the blade, I must say, held up focus pretty well. No real big scorch marks, it's just something dirty there. But yeah, it's not meant for that sort of abuse. I went and took this little scraper and I gave it a nice cutting edge on this side to be able to like scratch stuff off in tight corners, as well as sharpen that edge very nicely on my whetstone. So it should be well sharp enough. Let's see how this goes. Alright, so I have got almost everything sanded down to metal, all the way to this beam cross member thing. That's what I still have to do. I also put some NS1 rust converter everywhere where I saw some pitting. Like there you can see pretty heavy pitting. I've got my son's bed lamp here, just to stop the rust. There is significant rust inside this channel, and I figured what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put press stick or something in these gaps to seal it off inside. Then put a liberal amount of rust converter in the channel, stick a sponge in there and push the sponge up and down the channel to make sure that it gets applied properly. I need to make sure I get that covered. I'll put some video in here of what happened to my other car, because obviously moisture gets in there and it can't get out, and then you got a problem. A Marianas Trench running under this car from one side to the other, exactly below this rail. I also started sticking a paintbrush in these gaps with the rust converter to see how well I can get it covered. It didn't get too badly. That one I still need to do, but I think I'm going to do the same thing because I can't get the inside corner with a brush. I'm going to do the same thing, soak a sponge in the rust converter and then push it up and down in here to make sure that I get it covered properly. Again, photo of the other car has been rusted straight through here. I'm assuming water comes in through the window, or no, it can't come in through the window. Somewhere water comes in, maybe through those bolt holes that holds on the fender, gets in here, sits in that little ridge down there, and the rust straight through. So I need to make sure that doesn't happen. There's still a thick layer of this glue here that held on the carpet, so I'm assuming that's what it is, and this tar, whatever that is, over here that I'm going to try to get off tonight. Won't be able to use any power tools because I like my neighbors, but I do want to get as much of this off as possible. Okay, so I am totally over scratching off this tar or glue or whatever it is. So you can see it's still quite rough here. There's definitely a lot that must come off there. I took a can of sandable primer that I had, like a rattle can, last night, and I emptied it on there. There wasn't a lot left because I'm lazy. I am now also going to take my NS4 Durham primer, the red oxide primer, and I'm gonna slather it on there thick with a brush, let it dry for a whole week, and the next weekend I'm gonna sand it, put more on, sand it, and basically bondo it until it's smooth, because I want to go for a clean metal look wherever I can. Where there's exposed metal that I can leave exposed, I'm going to paint it the same color that I'm going to paint the outside of the car, and I want to leave it like that as far as possible. But I'm not going to get all of this metal smooth and clean. That side is already clean and smooth enough. It's a little bit of sanding left, but this side is just, that stuff is just on thick. So quickly on my lunch break, I painted this last night. It should be properly dry now. The cool thing what primer does, even though I scratched or like roughly scratched this with a wire brush, it looked fairly smooth, but now with the primer on you can really see how coarse and rough it is. But what I want to do now is take some coarse sandpaper. I've got some 80 grit here with a block, and knock off the high spots and paint it again with a brush. Thick coat of primer, knock off the high spots, paint, rinse, repeat until it's fairly smooth. It'll never be a perfect finish, but it'll do what I want to do. I'm really struggling to get this sticky stuff off here. I don't know if it was tape or paint or the sealer from the windscreen. My scraper is doing absolutely nothing, so I went back to my knife. So excuse the light, I've got my son's bed lamp, table lamp in my hand. So I have put on 2 thick coats of primer with a paintbrush all around there, and sanded it down twice. More modeling than sanding. Got rid of most of the ugly eye spots. Gonna put down 1 more thick coat, and then light sand, and then do a spray coat. Up here I have sanded down and got off all the paint and residue. It's nice and smooth to the touch. And the roof, I decided to get some of those sponge rollers to coat the roof. I want to try to keep the textured look, even though I'm going to paint it a color. You're going to have to wait and see what the color is. But I'm way too lazy to take off all of this coating, whatever this is. So I'm going to keep that look. Just go for it with a roller, and also most likely put the final color on with the same roller to give it a nice accented or textured look. That's it. It's getting late. Let me slap this last coat of paint on and then go to bed. Okay, so tonight's objective is to paint the roof with primer. It's got this textured gluish substance on it. I don't know what it is. It's freaking all over the car. I don't know if it was noise cancelling or what it was, but those stripes you can see. I think the previous guys that did a rebuild tried to take it off and realized it's not going anywhere. So what I've done is I've taken just a paintbrush and some primer and like dabbed it on there to put the texture where it was bare metal. Same over there. And now I'm going to roll it on with like a coarse PVA PVA? I don't know. Roller to keep like a matted, hammered texture over the whole roof. Eventually it's going to get
proper roof liner, but for now it's just gonna get painted. Okay, Mika, voel nou met jou ander handjie of dit smooth is, of dit al glad is. Is dit glad? Okay, dan kan jy na die volgende plek toe gaan. Voel daarso. Voel daar hoe grof is dit daar. Okay, dan kan jy dit glad maak. That's it. Voel daar agter, Mika. Soos hierso, daar binne, hierso, hierbo, hierso. Jy moet oralsters voel. Ek dink jy moet nog 'n bietjie skuur, dink jy nie so nie? Jy pas hier binne, papa pas nie. Is dit nou beter? Ja.
Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Bye.